Hi there, welcome to my latest episode of my 10-minute moan, and this one is to discuss Branchform, the investigation into the SNP, where the funds went from the £600,000 raised that was to be ring-fenced for a second independence referendum campaign, and just to sort of talk about the updates. Now, it's a weird one because we get swathes of information and then it draws back, swathes of information it draws back. So I'm going to just cover some of the information that we do know and then give my personal opinion on it. There's been talk in the Daily Express, they've been heavily into it, and Silver Fox done a video, I think it was yesterday. I just watched it this morning, discussing the Express article. And the Daily Record, they do a sort of short podcast about political stuff called Planet Holyrood from memory, and they were talking about it just last week or the week before. So it seems to be that there's a load of information coming out again. And what it looks like is that there's been staff members and reportedly some high-ranking staff members been taken in for further questioning over the last week or so, and some of them for the fourth time. So this investigation's been going for about 4 years now, roughly. Cost, according to some of the newspaper reports, £1.3 million. So many believe now that the actual investigation must be concluding or concluded. Then what happens is all the police do is they gather information and evidence and suggest if there's been potentially any laws broken. They then pass that to the prosecution service and they decide if charges should happen, and obviously that would lead to court case that they would need to present. Now, this, as I say, has been going on for a long time. 19 criminal complaints, apparently, about this supposedly missing £600,000. Well, it certainly wasn't in their accounts in the last couple of years. So that would suggest it's went. Now, what the Daily Record were suggesting was that the Rangers cases that failed, with the Craig White case being the big one, there's a lot of different arrests with the administrators, etc., and folk like Charles Green. And those arrests never led to anything apart from the Craig White one. Went to court, the case was lost for the prosecution. And the Daily Record are suggesting that this might be weighing on the prosecution service's mind, which would kind of make sense, because whether you agree with the failure to convict Craig White or whether you agree or disagree with the failure to take the others to court, including Charles Green stuff, one thing you can get away with is people were arrested, one of them went to court, was found not guilty, and the public purse in Scotland lost millions of pounds because these people later sued. Now, the suggestion, as I say, from the Daily Record podcast from 2 weeks ago was that that might be playing on the mind of the prosecutors. That makes sense to me. I can understand that. I don't think they should go into any situation in court proceedings lightly, and that might be why they're taking their time. So, looking at all the evidence in front of me helps me formulate my opinion. And my opinion is, of course, the prosecution is still alive. Because if the police were going to rubbish it, which some people were suggesting, why would they go to the bother of interviewing people yet again, some of them as much as a fourth time over the last week to fortnight? Just simply wouldn't happen. If there was no evidence with the police and they were not taking any further part in investigating it, then they would simply wouldn't be interviewing these people. And the fact that they have interviewed so many for this third, fourth time over the last few weeks, excuse me, would suggest to me that if the conclusion of their investigation is not imminent, then it's probably already finished. And the case will be with the prosecuting services. And then they've got a decision to make. Whether they charge them and go to court. The feedback I'm hearing is there could be as many as 6 potential arrests. Bear in mind, 3 people have already been arrested and released pending further investigation. So I think if the bookmakers were holding a book on who would get arrested, I think it's, common sense and logic would suggest those three. Who the other three are, no idea. No idea. I'm not prepared to guess, because that would be terrible, taking to the ether and putting people's name out there before it was public. But I mean, obviously the criteria is it's got to be people that are an SNP, because at the end of the day that's what's getting investigated, or the body that's been investigated. And two, it would need to be people quite high up. You wouldn't think any activists were, particularly able to potentially commit the crimes that have been suggested. The initial reports were, the initial complaints were about this £600,000 being missing. Since then, we've learned that it's shot into different routes, fraud and, potentially forging signatures, etc., etc., etc. So, again, that'll maybe help explain why the investigation's taking so long, because what was an initial complaint has grown arms and legs, and it's went into a whole different realm of potential law breaking. So, that makes me comfortable that it's not necessarily the police only want to do anything. The length of the investigation could simply be because as they investigate and they pull up evidence, they're finding more and more stuff. So I'm not really that scared the fact that the investigation's gone on for so long, and that's obviously means in some people's mind that the police aren't interested. I actually think the complete opposite. If they were not interested, then they wouldn't have went to the lengths they have and the amount of times I've interviewed people. So I'm quietly confident that the investigation is thorough, and I am also quietly confident that if laws have been broken, then I would find it very difficult for anybody in Scotland to brush this under the carpet, because it's such a public investigation. We've known about it for years now. We've had big blue tents outside the Morell-Sturgeon household, quite visible. If the police didn't want to do anything about this, these things would never have happened, because it now puts it in the front of a lot of people's minds, and I can't see how they would sweep this under the carpet after erecting a Olympic Village-size tents outside Nicola Sturgeon's house. You just wouldn't do that if you were wanting. It wouldn't make sense to do that if you were wanting to have any cover-ups, as some people are suggesting. So, as I say, I'm quite confident. I had information at the end of last year to suggest that the arrests were imminent. I stand by that, and I'm quite sure that in the not-too-distant future, we'll see not only an end of the investigation, but potentially more arrests. So, unless you're somebody that had anything to do with the Branchform investigation, i.e. the ones that are getting investigated, have a great day. Cheery bye now.